This is my workspace. I have my little armature there for my phone. I'm hand holding it right now just because that way I can move over various things and show them to you in more detail. This is my palette, almost always pretty dirty. It is a palette that I've grown very comfortable with because I've got these small wells in which I can just mix my, like if I want a pure yellow, I can just pop it in there. But I can mix my combinations in this big space up here, and I can get a lot of paint ready to go. My typical colors, I use a limited palette because that enhances the harmony within any picture. Plus, if somebody says, oh, I want something just like that you painted last year, I can do a commission, and I know pretty much what paints I use. So my standards are quinacridone burnt orange, gamboge, Hansa yellow. I don't use this one very much. This is an Indian yellow. It's a really pretty reddish yellow, but again, I don't use it very much. Pyroline green is what I use as my base for most of my greens, and then I'll mix in Hansa or gamboge or one of my blues. This again is a color I don't use often. I believe it's Scarlet Lake, but my two reds are the alizarin crimson and poppy or cad red light. This is, I believe, cobalt violet. Again, not a color I use much. Neutral tint is up there. I use it sometimes, not often, but I find it is a great darkening agent if I can't figure out what color I want to use to make something darker. I like to make my blacks out of complements. My most commonly used black in my paintings is a combination of ultramarine and QBO. That is what I make most of my blacks with, because then you can go into the blue side to make it cooler or into the orangey brown side to make it warmer. You get a lot of variety in your black that way. And as I said, it's my standard go-to. You get a great gray. So there's neutral tint. That's cerulean blue, which is a great, vivid, warm blue, ultramarine blue, which is a good cool blue. It's a very sedimentary color, though, so you've got to be aware of that when you're painting. It also does not lift out. So if you're counting on lifting colors out, don't use that one. And then over here is Prussian blue, which is a great color, but again, not one I use very often. I am right-handed, so next to my palette, I put my rags. I have just moved to a fabric rag because it's more ecologically sound and it's a smart thing to do. But for a couple of years now, I've been using the toilet roll scrunched and wrapped in paper towel as my blotter. For smaller paintings, this is still a good choice. This is much better for large paintings when I'm using a huge mop brush. And then I usually have two containers of water. One I'll allow to get darker, and then the other, it just saves me from having to change quite so often. My brushes are a varied mix. I'll get any brush that seems to serve the purpose. So this is a Princeton Neptune mop, I think they call it. It's a size 8 round. Yeah, I guess it's just a standard old round, but it's got a huge belly, so it holds a ton of water, and it gets a super point. So it's a good starting brush, and it's great for large washes. I've got all kinds of brushes in here. I've got some silver black velvets, or is it black silver velvets? Oh, silver black velvets. I got it right. And I've got, what is this one? A Master's Touch, I believe. This is the brush that's sold, I believe, at Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure. It's got a pretty good point, and it's been a go-to brush for a while, so it's getting a little raggedy, but it's pretty good. I have some flats, not a ton of them. I typically use my flats as a background. This is really an acrylic brush, Golden Fleece flat. So it's a Cheap Joe's art brush. It's a good brush. It's a very good brush. This is my newest. It's not even broken in or it hasn't even been gotten wet yet. This is a Princeton Neptune oval wash. Again, it's got a great point. I've seen it used to great advantage in some tutorials I've watched, so I splurged. Actually, it was half price, so I didn't splurge all that much. So there's that. And then I have these little guys, which are called shapers. What I use these for most of all, they come in all different kinds of sizes. They're a little rubber tip, and I use them for applying misket, liquid masking fluid, which comes in a little bottle like this. This is the Pavio. Winsor Newton makes some. I'm sure there are many different brands. This happens to be the one I like. It's just never failed me. If you use drawing gum or masking fluid, be sure to put it on dry paper and only take it off dry paper. Otherwise, it will ruin your paper or your painting. And I've done both, so be careful. Also, try not to leave it on terribly long. I left some on for 3 years one time, and it did not come off. I also used some really old masking fluid, and it also ruined my painting. So you need to make sure that's kind of fresh. Another type of paintbrush that I have is these. These are called scrubbers. I have a set of different sizes. This is about the medium size, and it's good for lifting things. So if you want to do a river, say, and you want to add some highlights in it, once you've laid your paint down, you get your scrubber brush wet, you lay the paint down, and you can either blot it with a tissue or remove it with the brush itself. Very, very useful. People say you can't change watercolors. You definitely can change watercolors. And then I have some acrylic what are they called? Copics? No, Posca pens for adding detail if I want to. I've got some other Tombow pens and things in here. Mostly here I have my pens and pencils. So this is for drawing, for tracing my image, for erasing. I really love these. I use almost strictly. I use these white these white erasers now for pencil. It's very clean and comes off well. This is my Jelly Roll pen, my white. It is the most dependable white detail pen I've been able to find. So I use it primarily for whiskers on animals, but also some highlights on drops, for example, drops of water, or on an eye. So what else do we have? Of course, we have our paper. What I typically use, because I'm lazy and it's the easiest, is watercolor blocks. So this is, I use Arches almost exclusively. This is a rough 7 by 10 inch watercolor block, 140-pound paper. It's 100% rag, 100% pure cotton actually. So I prefer to use Arches blocks. It just makes life so much easier. So that basically is my workstation. I have these little mini palettes that I use for specific purposes. I have a green one. It has all different kinds of greens on it. You can't get a good peacock green from a combination of it's very difficult, at least, to get a peacock green from these colors. So I cheat and use these guys sometimes. Same with florals. I have a little palette of pinks and magentas that I use for floral paintings. Again, I only bring it out when those colors are indicated, because it really does help to harmonize if you have a limited palette. So we went front to back, and that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.